And what's up, everybody? I'm back with another video. Today's another baseball video. It's not a rant. Well, it is kind of a rant, but not a full-fledged rant. Something I did not mention in the Tigers rant video that I made a few days ago, and that was by design, because I knew I wanted to make just a video dedicated to this specific topic, and that is umpiring. More specifically, the strike zone and the upcoming change to ABS in 2026, automatic like robot umpire, basically, is what's coming in 2026. And, well, barring that there's not a lockout, because there could very well be a lockout. I talked about that in the rant. That could very well happen, unfortunately. So great. But I did want to talk about the ABS system. I wasn't really gonna wasn't gonna make a video on this. This has been something that's known for a while that's coming. But I did not, until I started really watching these playoffs, and not just the Tigers, but other playoff games as well, I didn't realize how desperately needed the ABS system is. And I'm probably in the minority with this. I do think that, in general, you go across all sports, robot umpires are not, or officials are not always a good thing. Like robot sideline referees for football, or courtside referees for basketball, or officials for hockey. I don't think they make as much sense there, and you definitely do lose the human element with a robot. And I definitely, can see where people are coming from with that. But I think in baseball's case, especially with the umpires with the strike calls, I think it's much more necessary because of how large of a variation there is in strike zones between umpires and how inconsistent it is. Now, there's inconsistent refereeing calls in every sporting event, right? But a lot of those are not as cut and dry. Like foul calls in a basketball game, or penalties in a football game, or, all that sort of jazz. So, but for strike zone calls, it is cut and dry. The strike zone is supposed to be the width of the plate, and I think it goes up to the player's chest. Is that right? I think that's right. Obviously, height variations, but now with the ABS system, they can now set a strike zone that fits that criteria and is universal for everybody in the MLB, and they can have a proper way to call strikes and balls. And I think this is necessary because it'll eliminate bad calls, and I think it gives a bigger advantage to pitching, which is, I think, redundant to what the MLB wants. I think they want more offense, and I do think it could benefit the offense because, pitchers are still going to throw their pitches, right? But I think hitters are going to be able to work the counts more into their favor because they'll know exactly where the strike zone is, and they can better gauge on where they need to hit and where they can lay off. You know what I'm saying? But pitchers in the same can also gauge exactly where they need to hit and where they need to lay off. And there's been so many instances of that fucking pitchers over in the playoffs. Tigers talk about it. Game 5, Seattle had a much larger strike zone than the Tigers did. So many pitches that were just outside or just inside. For Seattle, they were called strikes. For us, they were called balls. For Skubal, they were called balls. For Seattle's pitchers, they were called strikes. Which then allowed Seattle to get ahead in the count, and the Tigers get behind the count. And so then Tigers would swing at sliders in the third again, while Seattle would draw walks and hits. Now, that's not all on the umpiring. That's on shit hitting in general and whatnot. Not everybody can have a big dumpa on their team. But in general, now you'll kind of eliminate a lot of that. Um, if it's over the plate, or if it's in, I guess it's more, if it's in the strike zone, to strike every time. A lot of pitches would fall that were thrown in Game 5 that weren't called strikes would be in the 2026 and on format. But not just the Tigers, that Cubs Padres series. Um, there were consistently pitches in the dirt that were called strikes against the Padres. And this gets into another thing about where the robot aspect, I think, will help baseball. And it's that human feeling element, right? Which I guess kind of redacts a point that I made earlier about, it's not good to lose the human element. But I think in this case, you can kind of flip the rule because, and this has never been factually true or correct or anything like that. It's never been proven, but it's obvious that pitchers are. It's obvious that that umpires don't like arrogant batters. So when a batter, before the pitch is even like fully complete, a batter is, moving, is like throwing the bat away to take first base, they're going to call it a strike. Regardless of where it is, where the pitch was thrown. It could be way off the plate or way low, way high. They're going to call it a strike because they don't like that. They want to let the batters know that they don't like when they do that. But now with the robot system, that's no longer existent. And I think that's a good thing. Because I think it's okay for a batter, if they know it's going to be a ball and they're going to be able to get a walk out of it, to take the base. They just want to move along. They just want to do their thing. I think sometimes, yes, they are being arrogant. And that could cause some more fights, bench clearings, which I think would be awesome. But we'll have to see how it goes. Maybe there'll be some changes in coaching. Maybe there'll be some added on rules regarding that. We don't know for sure. But I think that's another aspect of it, is the Padres got fucking screwed by those calls. All because the umpire wanted to teach them a lesson. The fuck? And it was even on show with the Dodgers against the Phillies. Many calls were way off the plate. And also in the Yankees Blue Jays series, him a little bit too. There. So there's a lot of examples, and these are just playoff examples. Across a 162 game season for 30 teams, there's a lot of other missed calls, and it's just because nobody wants to umpire anymore because they're very shit on, and that's a problem with refereeing in general. So maybe you implement the robot system and you get away with it, and now they don't have to worry about staffing, and they don't have to worry about education aspect, and it kind of just keeps everything on a much more of a playing field. And it goes back to what the MLB trying to level the playing field with this, and also with the salary cap thing and everything, trying to level the playing field instead of making owners spend all their money or spend more than $1 million a year on players. Pirates. But so at the end of the day, what I really say is this: is the ABS system, I think, is going to be really good because it is going to eliminate variability. It's going to set a consistent strike zone that all pitchers have to abide by and all batters have to abide by. I think it's going to help with batting averages, but I think it's also going to make pitching better. I think it's going to make the game better in general. It's going to eliminate a lot of controversial calls. It's going to kind of neutralize home field advantage a bit, especially on the pitching aspect of it all, which I think will in turn make games more competitive. I don't think it'll really take away much home field advantage, but you definitely do see the home team get the better calls, and that's across the league in general, that the home team's going to get more calls in their favor, especially in the playoffs, but in the regular season too. But that's just kind of my ramblings and my thoughts on the whole matter, because a lot of people are very against this ABS system, and I can see why, but I think it's going to be one of the best things the MLB has done recently, outside of the pitch clock. The pitch clock has been the best thing that MLB has done in a long time, and I think this will be just another step into really making the game great, really great. It's good now, but it's really going to be great with this. But who knows? I've been wrong on many other things in the past, and I could be wrong on this. The ABS system could be a complete farce. It could be shit. It could be just terrible, and they bring back umps the next season or even in that same season just because of how bad it is. We really don't know how it's going to look until it actually happens, but I did feel like I wanted to voice my concerns about this now, because I think it's important to kind of understand why the MLB is doing this, and it's not to create an AI world. No AI world, not like fucking Facebook. It's just to make the game better. Sorry. Humans make mistakes. This is not on the umps at all in most cases. Humans make mistakes, right? It's okay. But mistakes on that high of a scale, especially in that Padres Cubs series, but also other series, they're going to be on notice more. They just are. And it's not really anybody's fault. Just the way it is sometimes. And so you got to make necessary adjustments, especially in this new technology era. You know what I mean? So, as my ramblings, as my thoughts, I'm in full favor of the ABS system, and I think it's going to be pretty good. But what are your thoughts on robot umps going forward? Do you think it's going to be good? Do you think it's going to be bad? And why? And who do you think is going to benefit or, in turn, get hurt the most from this? So anyways, it's going to do it for this video. Stay tuned for the much more amazing content. Until next time, see you guys later. Goodbye.